All right, shall we get started? Welcome, everyone, to Connecting Cryptocurrencies. This course with Node.js. This course is going to cover 3 different cryptocurrency networks and some basics of interacting with them, sending and receiving payments, generating accounts, that kind of thing on those 3 networks, and all of that in Node.js. And so those are Bitcoin, Ripple, and Dogecoin. I have the actual networking servers set up that everyone can use to interact with. And to get started, there's a GitHub repository that you can clone and actually run the examples. You got it? Okay, great. Okay. So, all right, let's just start off by talking about cryptocurrency briefly. I know you're more new to the space. This guy works at a Bitcoin company.
But my weak spot is Node, so we're both.
Awesome. So just briefly, a cryptocurrency is essentially it's a public ledger or a database of payments, and all of the payments are cryptographically signed. So the key with cryptocurrencies is that it has digital signatures to validate all of the different payments between the accounts. And when you're interacting with the network, you need cryptographic key pairs to make payments, to receive payments, and then you have to actually generate cryptographic signatures in order to sign the payments. And so we'll be going over the tools to do that. And so each network is composed of nodes that are servers running on the internet or on the networks, and they're running a daemon software, which is a peer-to-peer networking software. For Bitcoin, the people running the networking software are called miners, and they're the ones that move payments around the network. And the miners actually propagate all the payments. They verify all of the transaction signatures, the digital signatures, and they push everything around. And that's a worldwide network. The same is with Dogecoin. It's almost identical to Bitcoin. There's a daemon, cryptocurrency daemon for Dogecoin. It propagates all the payments throughout the network. It's peer-to-peer. With Ripple, it's a similar system in that there are nodes, servers that are running, and once again, they validate signatures and they propagate all the payments to everyone in the network. Bitcoin and Dogecoin are different than Ripple in the way that they validate payments. The Bitcoin and Dogecoin networks use mining or raw computing power in order to validate and secure the payments, whereas Ripple uses essentially trust between trusted nodes in the system. So if I was running a Ripple network and there were 10 institutions that I trust and we all trusted each other, we could validate each other's payments and build a network that way. And so it would be based more on trust rather than raw computing power. So you can't with Bitcoin, you don't have to trust specific people. You just have to trust the whole system. With Ripple, you have to trust specific people, but it gives you a lot of advantages. Okay, so the cryptocurrency daemons use an RPC interface. Is anyone familiar with RPC?
RPC, no. Remote procedural calls.
Yeah, remote procedural call.
Okay.
It's a HTTP post based API, right? And the Bitcoin D RPC interface is right here. So I'm going to show you the Node Bitcoin library and how to interact with the RPC interface here. And start with the very simple commands and have you maybe try to build something with that, and then we can move forward. So there's actually a lot of different things you can do, and if you have any questions about any of them, I can try to explain. We're going to start with the get new address, just for fun. We're going to start with Bitcoin, then do Ripple and Dogecoin. Okay, so if we look at our actual repository here under lessons, there's lesson 1, generate new address. Okay, so I should probably give you the credentials for this, but I'll show you first.
Yeah.
And then, so step 1 is to generate a new address using the raw RPC interface. And I'm using curl to actually do that. It's pretty simple. You pass in the username and password of the RPC daemon that you want to use, and then you tell it the method. And I've set up a Bitcoin server here, so let's go ahead and try that out. I have this nice config JSON with secrets. So let's try our first command. Hobby tables.
In the XKCD comic, right?
Yeah. Drop all. All right.
Cool.
So we can see the result of this curl command is a new Bitcoin address.
Oh, okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, that's better. So it generates a new Bitcoin address every time, and I want to explain what this Bitcoin address represents. The Bitcoin D software has a root account, and it controls the secret or private key of that account. And the private key controls the Bitcoins that belong to that account. In order to send Bitcoins to that account, you can use an address. And so the address is it's a hash of the public key. There's a private public key pair that's generated when you generate a new Bitcoin daemon, or when you install one. And one private key can have many public addresses to receive funds. And every time you want to receive a new payment, the pattern is to generate a new address.
And you send it to the guy.
Yeah, you generate a new address and you tell the person send money to this address, and you'll be able to identify that person.
Who sends the payment?
Yeah, because you map that address to the person sending the payment. Okay, so any questions? So that's how you do that in the RPC land. Now I want to show off the Node Bitcoin Node.js module that we're going to use. And it's here, it's this guy named Free Will created it, Node Bitcoin. It's a really simple client for RPC, for the Bitcoin RPC. You can get it npm install Bitcoin. And then your client will, you can instantiate a new client and pass in the client details. So we actually have a server running, and I'll show you how I set this up with my credentials. And then it's pretty basic. It's just kind of a wrapper around the RPC interface. All right, so this is a Node.js project, and since both of you are more new to Node.js.
I'm not familiar with it. I mean, I built stuff with it.
Oh.
Like personal projects, nothing like enterprise or anything. So.
Okay, I'll just go through like the whole Node.js spiel.
Okay.
Each Node.js application has what's called package.json.
Okay, yeah.
And it specifies all of the dependencies for the project and meta information and things like that. And so this project has a package JSON.
So, is this in? Okay, so the project is the main, where the main folder, and then each lesson is
Under
part
lesson.
of that project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So each lesson.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
how's it going?
Sorry,
Nice to see you. Yeah, I can see you again.
I saw your videos, really good. Those are wonderful videos.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Marco.
Hey,
Good to see you.
Nice to
Welcome.
meet you.
Hey,
David.
Alex.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, this is a wonderful class.
Oh,
Have a seat.
Yeah.
So I was just telling these two gentlemen about the Bitcoin RPC. I'll reiterate what we're doing today. Showing how to use 3 different cryptocurrency networks and how to interact with them in Node.js. And so first thing I showed was really basically how to generate a wallet from your Bitcoin daemon. And now I'm starting to show them the Node.js project with all of our lessons. And Marco, so you know we have all of our lessons are here under this project,
Okay.
connecting cryptocurrencies. You can clone that.
Great.
Okay, so if everyone wants to look at this file called package.json, briefly, Node.js applications or modules all have a package.json, and its dependencies are specified here. If you're used to Ruby, this is like the gem file.
okay.
And all of these modules here under dependencies are available on the internet at npm.js. So it's a public repository of code and modules. And our first module we're using is the Bitcoin module. It's pretty basic. All right, yeah.
So to install all those, we just run npm install.
npm install, yeah. And npm install will install all of the modules and dependencies. You might have to sudo that. Depends on your setup. Questions about the package JSON?
I understand it. So yeah, pretty clear.
All right, all right. Now, if we look at our first lesson, I have code for Bitcoin and Dogecoin and Ripple, and this will generate addresses. So let's look at lesson 1, Bitcoin. This lesson is pretty simple. I encourage everyone to, or I'll give you the credentials in a second, but you instantiate a new Bitcoin client and run client.get new address. Very basic. Let's try it and see what happens.
Open.
Okay, it seems like at this point I should give everyone the credentials, the config JSON. So the Bitcoin and Dogecoin RPC credentials are in a JSON file, and that's actually loaded into the project. But I need to give it to you. How do you think is the best way for me to transfer this without putting it on the internet?
That's a good question.
Like, I have a USB key here.
Okay, that works.
That works.
So that's all right. Okay.
I can sit over here. I wonder if my node is outdated.
To
I'm getting a
Node-V.
compatible version. 0.10.15.
Ooh, I have 10.26.
Alright, so then it is. So I guess I'll just brew up to. Owning the project.
Got it. And it'll just be config.json.
Copy.
Copy it right into the root of your project.
Yeah, don't worry about that code. Just try and navigate and see if it.
Steven, can you give me the repository name there?
Yes, the repository name, it is Connecting Cryptocurrencies under Steven Zeiler. Here's the whole name.
So we're in the lesson one, right? Generating the address.
Yes.
Got it. Need
I love those tiny USBs.
Yeah, they're so small.
Yeah.
It was like $5.
Really?
Config.json?
Yes. All right. Yeah, he's got it.
Is NPM like does it define the version of Node I'm using?
Shouldn't. I think NPM comes packaged with Node, so
Okay.
the version of Node would define the version of NPM.
Okay.
Okay, so I demonstrated the Bitcoin one, and it's really straightforward. With the Dogecoin interface, let's go through that. We have our Dogecoin RPC password, and I'm going to actually generate a new address first, and then I'll show you the JavaScript. Thank you.
I still need them.
Yes. And just copy it to the root of your project.
Okay.
The Dogecoin lesson is slightly different than the Bitcoin one because it does a secondary call. The first, we have a Dogecoin client. I'll show you this client in a second, but it instantiates a new Dogecoin client. It gets a new address, and then it runs this validate address function, which is really nice. If someone ever provides you an address, you can actually call the Dogecoin D server and ask it if it's valid. And if we run that project, that example, it will generate a new address, and then it will ask the server if that address is valid. The server's going to be like, what do you mean? I just generated that address. Of course it's valid. But this is the output here. I'll explain it. Is valid, true. We have the address, and the address isn't the actual public key. It's actually a hash of the public key. So it shows you the actual public key down here. And so this is the actual cryptographic public key, but it's a lot simpler to make payments to a smaller address. So they hash it. I think it's the first half of a SHA-512.
And how do you like specify the first letter? Ripple is.
Oh yeah, I don't know how they do that.
They use B, right?
Bitcoin doesn't use B.
No, it's but I don't know. But yeah.
It's actual hash.
Yeah, this
It's one.
something like they hash it and then they replace the first letter with capital D, or for Dogecoin.
Okay.
So something really straightforward like that. Okay, now that everyone has the config JSON with the RPC credentials, are you able to run the demos?
Yeah.
The first lesson?
Node Bitcoin.js, right?
Yeah. So it would be node bitcoin.js and node dogecoin.js. And then next step is to look at the Ripple, generating a new Ripple wallet. Okay, so maybe a little bit of background about the Ripple server we're going to interact with. I told you earlier Ripple has a networking daemon software. It's called Ripple D, like Bitcoin D and Dogecoin D. And nodes will run this software to participate in the payment processing system, mechanism, the consensus algorithm, consensus process. But we've developed a REST interface that sits in front of the RPC interface for simplicity. And if you've used REST, it's a better known convention for a lot of people than RPC, and it's pretty straightforward. So just know that we're not interacting directly with a Ripple D RPC server. We're interacting with a Node.js app that's sitting in front of a Ripple D, and all it does is proxy the requests to the RPC server. So you can install this software on your own server, and it's called Ripple REST. It's just a Node.js app that sits between us and the Ripple D. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then the Ripple REST, it's available. We're hosting one at api.ripple.com. And before I make a command to that, I'll just show everyone. This is the root of the Ripple REST that we're looking at api.ripple.com, and it's kind of nice because it lists all the REST endpoints that you can use. These map to RPC calls. And the first command we're going to use is generating a new wallet. So the REST resource is wallet/new. And if we curl that, we should get a new Ripple wallet. And so this Ripple wallet response is slightly different from the Bitcoin and Dogecoin response because it includes the secret key component in addition to the address component. And so with Bitcoin D and Dogecoin D, the server actually holds on to the secret key of your account. But in the Ripple system, the server doesn't hold on to the secret key for any given account, and it's not really even associated with a specific account. The Ripple D software is mainly for voting on transactions and validating transactions. And so the convention in the Ripple community is to hold on to your secret outside of the server and sign transactions when you want them to happen. And so this Ripple REST interface, if you need to sign a transaction, you actually submit the secret along with your payment. And you can run this locally, so you don't have to transmit your secret over the internet. But this, for now, we're using api.ripple.com. If anyone's interested in installing Ripple REST later, we can do that. You've probably done that.
Yeah. Now I'm having some problems, but yeah.
With REST?
Yesterday.
Yeah, there's problems.
But yeah, I done that before.
Okay. Any questions about generating wallets? Is everyone able to generate a Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Ripple wallet?
So where do I need to put my config.json file? Actually, I copied in the lesson.
Oh no!
but
Put
it's
it
not
in
here.
Put it in the root of the whole project. To connect to
You
the
already have
currencies.
one config.json.
It's probably empty.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Before we move on, I'm going to show you some Node.js, really nice Node.js module that we're using, and then I'll show you how we instantiate these clients. So I gave you a config.json. Whoa, let's go back up to the main root. We have our config.json, and it includes the host information for our daemons. And the way that we're actually loading that into the project is using a module called inconf. It's here in the package.json, inconf. And this is one of my favorite Node.js modules for loading configuration. It allows you to load config from a JSON object and also from the environment variables, and then also from default in JavaScript. And so it loads all of these different things, and also from the command line. So that oh man, you guys definitely can't read this. All right, that's more readable. So the actual inconf object is in environment.js, and environment.js is where we require inconf. And that gives us our config object that we'll use throughout our application. This config object, it first loads our config file, and then if it overrides anything that doesn't exist with these defaults. So our Ripple default host, Dogecoin and Bitcoin, there's no defaults because we don't have it installed locally. And then hopefully later we'll be getting into Redis, and this is just the default Redis configuration for your local machine.
Where's this environment? Oh yeah, here it is.
Environment.js. Yeah, and so we'll require this throughout the project. And then how were we actually making those RPC calls to the various servers? in the project under /clients, I've set up different JavaScript clients for each of these RPC servers. And so the first client was the Bitcoin client. Here we go. It requires the Bitcoin module. It loads the config object, which includes your config.json. And then we instantiate a new Bitcoin client using the Bitcoin config. Does that make sense?
And Bitcoin client expects that structure, the JSON
Yes.
structure.
Yes. And we can look at the Node Bitcoin module here. When you instantiate a new client, it expects these parameters here. And if we look at our config.json, the Bitcoin has those parameters. And then we have our Dogecoin client. It's exactly the same, except now we're using Node Dogecoin. So it's a slightly newer version of the Node Bitcoin, basically. It does almost exactly the same thing, but there's a dog, so it's better. Yeah. Who doesn't love this dog? Okay, so this is countable Node Dogecoin. Same project, basically. Okay. And then, let's see, with the Ripple one, I'm actually just using a basic HTTP client. And I'll show you the best HTTP client now for Node.js. If you're ever wanting to do Node.js and you have a different HTTP client, you're doing it wrong. Super Agent is the best, in my opinion. So, and that's pretty basic. It just
That's for WebRPC calls? Or for
yeah, this is for generic HTTP requests. And the Ripple examples were so basic with REST that I just use raw HTTP. There is another client, Ripple, and this is actually a project of mine called Ripple REST Client. And that has calls for most of the Ripple REST commands also. And the same structure, loader config. Actually, this is no good. Might as well edit it really quick. There we go. So load our same config object. I don't even think we're using this Ripple client. Okay, so back to lesson 1. Let's look at the Ripple. We saw the Dogecoin and Bitcoin one. For Ripple, all we do is get this resource wallet/new, and then we log it. There we go. It should be able to generate a new wallet. Now, one unique thing about Ripple is when you generate a new wallet, you can't even use it. With Bitcoin, when you generate a new address, someone can immediately send you money. But with Ripple, the account has to actually be funded with 25 XRP, which is the native currency in Ripple. XRP is essentially, it's a digital currency used to pay for things on the network. So if you want to make a transaction, you have to pay a fee in XRP, and that fee is destroyed. If you want to create a new account on the ledger, you have to pay 25 XRP to register that account. Okay. Before we move on, I want to make sure everyone has a Ripple account. And I'll send you Ripple XRP if you don't have a funded account. Okay. Well, you can generate one now, or you can sign in with rippletrade.com, so that you don't have to remember your secret. And I suggest, yeah, I'll show you rippletrade.com.
You have to sign up for Ripple Trade if you have a Ripple account.
You don't have to sign up for Ripple Trade.
But I mean, if we have a Ripple account, can we log into Ripple Trade with it?
Yeah, if you don't have a Ripple Trade account, then yes, you can add your current account to Ripple Trade.
Okay.
But yeah. I recommend signing up here, and then you'll be able to much more easily trade and send money